welcome to Work the Left Side. I'm hyped to announce tonight's guest. It is Helen Charlotte Campbell. How are we doing? You good?
I am good. Hello.
So, firstly, thank you for joining me. Thank you for sitting down, having this chat,
Mm.
and giving up your time. It's always much appreciated. It always kind of blows my mind when people just agree to sit down and talk to me. So, I'm very, very happy. And I just saw you this last weekend at
Hmm.
Grit. So,
Yeah.
first thing I'm going to ask is, I saw you take an horrendous, horrific, table bump, just going through that table. How's the back?
Oh, I'm doing okay today. I'm doing all right. It was a bit, yeah, it was a bit splinterier than expected. But no, I'm good today. I'm doing good.
I remember seeing that, like, well, I'll talk about that show straight off, really, because it's freshly
Okay.
on my mind. Everybody, obviously, we sponsor True Grit, so hopefully, a large percentage of our audience, will have seen it or will be watching
Yeah.
it by the club. How did you find, as a fan? I loved that show. I thought that show was
Mhm.
so good. Like, everybody gave 110% at that show. They just turned up, absolutely smashed it. Yourself, obviously included. You pull in double shifts. You enjoy it?
I did indeed. Yeah, shows like that are always special. I'm still not quite used to them existing. We can maybe go into details about that kind of show specifically when we come to that in the conversation. But yeah, it was a very fun show. It always is at True Grit. Like the vibes are always great, and that venue is beautiful. So it's always really good to be able to wrestle there.
It is very unique, isn't it? Like, I think it kind of, whenever I speak to people when they've just made their debut at left bank, or they've been there,
Mm,
no matter how many times they've been there, that's always the takeaway. It's just like it's a very unique inside. Visually, it just looks awesome. Some of the photos you
mm.
get is just like, oh.
Yeah, it's beautiful. There's no other way of putting it. It's just really cool to be able to wrestle in there.
So, well, we'll talk about the importance. I'm not going to build up to anything.
Mm,
We'll just we've talked about it. So, just the importance of the pride shows, doing things
mm,
like that. The fans turning up, the fans being vocal, and the fans supporting it. It's got
mm.
to be, for me. It kind of recharges my soul. Just to see
Yeah.
people, stuff like that. So being a part of it, it must just be, unreal.
Yeah, it means a lot. I don't really know how to lead into what I want to say here, but like it does mean a lot that these shows exist, and it means a lot that I'm able to perform on them, and that we're able to be so open and celebratory of it. Because that wasn't always the case, I in the old days, I may not have come out of trans yet, but I was definitely bisexual, and but I was not nearly as vocal about, well, I don't even know if I'm vocal about being trans, more that you can't really hide it, once you transition, well, you can't really be in the closet about it the same way you can, like, when it's just a sexuality thing. Um, you know, but even so, I wasn't exactly in the closet. Like people who knew me knew, but it wasn't like something that was like a big part of anyone's character. It wasn't usually something that was mentioned publicly. People wouldn't usually know unless they knew you. You know what I mean? Um, like there were queer people in wrestling, but they tended to be either dotted around the country, so we didn't really know each other, or quiet about it, so we didn't really know each other. Like I had a good friend in Mark Adams, who is one of the true pioneers of being queer in British wrestling. In my opinion, deserves all the credit in the world because he was very openly gay. I'm sure he won't mind me saying that. Very, very openly gay. At a time when pretty much no one was. But like it felt like sometimes it'd just be me and Mark. We'd have a pint and it'd just be not that it was just us, but within my
Circle.
circle, it felt like it was just us, Um, in reality, we were dotted around and stuff, and people with various levels of loud. Like, I now know Priscilla very well, but she in and out and drag and not mixing up pronouns. It's just difficult to choose whether I want to talk about she Priscilla or he, the performer who is Priscilla. But he only moved up to Manchester like a few years after I'd started, and he'd already been going for many years at that point himself. So again, it just felt like it was just me and Mark until like Ollie moved up and Priscilla moved up. I don't know if you have to bleep the name there or anything, but you know, but now there's like a whole community. You know, we can fill up shows like True Grit was, I think, maybe not counting the Rumble with an excellent and hilarious cameo from one straight wrestler. I think the True Grit show might have been the first show in the UK, including Pride shows, where I think everyone was queer. Now, yeah, I don't. Apart from in that Rumble with an excellent cameo, by the way, a cameo I would never complain about because it was very funny. I think it was fully queer, and I think it was probably the first in the UK to be so. Because the other Pride shows have had allies on them, people who wanted to support the cause, but they weren't 100% queer. That one, I think this show was, and that's pretty special, you know, very special. I don't know if I'm rambling too much now, but my point is, these are kind of come out of nowhere. Well, they're not, but they exist now, and they didn't, and it's difficult to overstate how much that means to me. You know, yeah.
You can't oversell the importance of it. That's the thing. You're not rambling. By all means, please. You know, the less I have to talk, the happier I am. People aren't watching this for me. They're watching. You know, they're here to listen to you, kind of thing. So, but no, obviously, Wing Commander Nash was, you know, a brief cameo due to somebody not being able to make it. He wasn't originally intended to be on the show.
It was dead funny. I would never complain. That's like that. It's the queer Rumble, and then the comedy straight character, you know, is shocked that his music's playing. He doesn't understand Ryan gets in anyway. That's a good gag. I had no issues with that at all.
The funny thing is, though, sidebar, he was sort of stood with us, myself and Dan, like at the start of the show, and there was a family in front of us. We always kind of stood by near the door at the back. There was a family in front of us. They kind of kept looking back, you know, we were just telling jokes, watching the wrestling, having a laugh. Obviously, they'd noticed him and us. And then during the Rumble, obviously, he gets in, and you could see like them talking and looking at him and being like, and then one of them turned around and be like, "Is he meant to be up there? You know, should we go tell somebody?" We're like, "No, I'm sure people have said that about Nash before numerous times, but no, you know, he does belong there. He does, you know, he's meant to be there."
Oh, he absolutely does. I won't go too into it, but I think he's a great comedy character, and he's very underrated in my opinion.
I've said numerous times every show needs a Nash or a Nash style character just to add that variety to it. But yeah, to rewind as well to acknowledge Mark. Known Mark for years, you know, I've known his work at PCW and loads of other things. And yeah, he is awesome. Quick shout out as well, if you're not, please go and check out his Red Dwarf podcast that he does. It's amazing. If you're into that kind of thing, you will absolutely love it. Shipwrecked and Comatose. And Ollie, yeah, we've had Princess Priscilla stroke Ollie on a few months ago. So everybody who watches this channel knows Priscilla as Ollie and Ollie as Priscilla.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, good. So I've not messed anything up there.
No, it's all good. But yeah, and that's it. You know, I sort of said it's just. But again, you know, obviously I'm speaking from this side, from the other side of the curtain. But you know, I as a fan, I would hear nightmare stories, you know, from years ago of people not being able to be themselves or being too scared to speak out because it is a very sort of hetero industry where people could be, you know, sort of, you know, I can't even think of it, you know, just not picked on, but kind of blackboard or put to one side because of mainly obviously in America, you know, like WWE, you had Orlando Jordan, you know, coming out saying that he didn't dare say anything and things like that. So it's nice over here anyway that the business has progressed where, you know, if you're a good wrestler, you're a good wrestler. It doesn't matter about X, Y, or Z.
I mean, I don't want to ever make like blanket statements about that. I think it would be naive to pretend that like homophobia and transphobia and bigotry doesn't exist within British wrestling. I think it would be very naive to say that. But I know for a fact that my experiences now as an openly queer person are better than my experiences back then as an openly queer person. Um, that being embraced for, like, I don't ever want to say I was like bullied or hate crimed or anything. I wasn't.
Yeah,
But it was something you kept quiet about, and now it's not, and that means a lot. It's important.
that's it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Please don't. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't do my blanket statements. I can only sort of say from my
Mm.
perspective, from what I've
Yeah,
heard,
yeah.
of people I've spoken to, kind of thing.
Mm.
So it just seems to be in a better place now, which is all anybody can ask for,
Yeah,
kind of
it
thing.
absolutely is. It absolutely is.
Well, I'll get a generic box ticked. Obviously, back in the day when you wanted to get into wrestling, then, and we talked about it kind of off camera before we hit record. Obviously, I kind of called Future Shock, your home.
Mm.
Was that like the first school that you went to back in the
Yes.
day? So you've literally been Future Shock from day one?
Yeah. So I got to the reason I ended up in Future Shock was because I read an issue of Power Slam magazine. Remember print media. So I had an issue of Power Slam magazine. I recently found it actually. I've got it in the house, this exact issue, which had an advert for the FWA training schools. Um, so the FWA, if any of your listeners don't know, was like the biggest UK promotion of like the late 2000s, early 2010s kind of thing. Um, and they had a bunch of training schools that were affiliated with them up and down the country. And one of them happened to be in Manchester. And when we phoned the number, it turned out that not only was it in Manchester, but it was in Failsworth, which was my hometown. In fact, it was about 10 minutes walk from where I was living at the time. So it was perfect, So I started training in Future Shock in Failsworth. It's funny, the magazine didn't say Future Shock; it was just an FWA training school, but it was already branded as Future Shock by the time I started. It'd been around about 2 years at that point. Yeah, and that's how I started there. So Future Shock has been my home all this time. Now there are other places I've trained. I trained for a while at GPW as well. Others that are escaping me at the moment, but I've done various seminars at different schools up and down. But yeah, Future Shock though is my home. If you're gonna ask me where my home is, it's Future Shock and always will be.
Yeah. Great place. Great. Again, I've spoken to numerous people from, various schools like House of Pain, obviously
Mm,
Pursuit. And I've spoken to numerous people now from Future Shock as well. And, everybody's just amazing that I've spoken to from there kind of thing.
mm,
And it's like, it seems to be as well that everybody's kind of getting acknowledged now as well from Future Shock. So it's kind of putting the school in a very good stead. The
mm.
reputation of Future Shock is just like next level kind of thing. For me, again, no besmirchment to any other school, but it's easy, it's easily like one of the top 5 schools of the country kind of thing, based on the talent that's coming out of it alone.
I am obviously biased, so I'll just say I agree.
But nobody's going to follow you. It's perfectly fine. You're allowed to be biased to your school. So, what made you take the steps though in the first place? You've seen the advert in Power Slam, so you read in Power Slam, so you're a wrestling fan. So, you always kind of been from a young age, or is it something you kind of got into sort of later on, or have you got that moment where you remember becoming a wrestling fan?
Okay. I mean, as a fan, it started when I was really young, like when WCW was on Channel 5, like me and my dad would watch it on Channel 5, as silly and edited as the Channel 5 version was, I didn't know any better. I was a kid, and we'd be seeing like Goldberg and killing people. Now I know actually, but Goldberg killing people and people getting hit with guitars and stuff like that. It was a very fun time, and it was the big 90s boom at the time. My dad never wanted to watch WWF. He was like, it was a load of crap this whenever it was on telly. So it was always WCW. Even though as an adult from a murder scutiny, and I'd probably argue some of it was the other way around, mostly. but yeah, so WCW Channel 5, that's kind of the birth of me as a wrestling fan. Then later on, I'd get into WWF, WWE, after WCW folded. Big into like, I kind of matured as a wrestling fan as a teenager, being a big fan of the Triple H Reign of Terror era. You know, for years as a kid, Triple H was my favorite wrestler. And then but then I got into actually wrestling training really young, so it's kind of difficult to separate my life as a young wrestling fan from my life as a wrestling trainee because I was very young when I started. So like my memories of wrestling are very intertwined with wrestling training and then eventually actually performing and stuff. It's difficult to go, this was my fan era and this was my wrestling era because I was, yeah, so young when I started.
Very closely entwined kind of thing.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that's the thing. Yeah, it's weird because obviously most people never actually knew WCW was on like Channel 5 or anything like that. So they never really, you speak to most UK talent and they're like, oh yeah, you know, WWE on Channel 4 or, you know, TNA on Bravo. They're the ones to go to kind of thing. But yeah, WCW on Channel. And so yeah, and like you say, it would have been, you kind of look back though, like at that time period, and it's like it's either so good or it's so bad. You
Yeah.
know, me and JC are doing something where we're watching all the pay-per-views from '97, and it's just like, oh, you know, some of these things are amazing, and the other things are just like just literally tearing my eyes out. So I'd have to watch them again, kind of thing. But
Mm.
it's all good fun. It's wrestling.
Yeah.
So when you at you know, you're at FutureShock, you know, I'll kind of touch on it now just to so we can kind of pull things back up to date. Say, you know, you kind of stepped away from training for a little while, and then you came back. Even having a bit of time away, you know, how was the adjustment when you came back? You know, obviously the scene kind of just got bigger and bigger very quickly over the last couple of years. I think as a fan, you know, looking at talent and
It's
promotion.
so and I'm gonna have to just to talk about this, touch on some of the history that's a little bit uncomfortable from the last few years. But I stopped 2019. This was around the time of like WWE had taken the UK, NXT UK had started. Um, and it was also pre speaking out and pre COVID. So what I came back to, like this was like kind of tail end of the big boom period. And I came back, but and then I went and then I came back to a scene very much in recovery. You know, a lot of stuff had happened over that time, and it was a relatively short time, but like who was on top on the cards, you know, who you saw at shows, um, the vibe of just being around wrestling shows, it was completely different, you know. Um, I don't want to go too much into stuff that's maybe not my place to go into, but I think something people haven't talked about is that the culture, I think, is a lot healthier now than it was back then. You know, people can complain about it not being the boom period anymore, although I think it's clear we're in a very strong recovery period. But I think it's never going to be perfect, but I think being a wrestler is safer in the UK than it was pre 2019. And I believe that very strongly, having disappeared and come back, you know. Um, yeah, I don't know how much I want to go into, but that is the main thing. Is I think it seems safer now, and there are still always going to be problems. But I personally would not ever want to change the culture back to what it was then.
No, like we said before, it's in a better place now than it was a few years ago, which is all you can ask for, kind of thing. The trajectory is going in the right direction.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
But like with a lot of stuff, you know, it's getting better. And also, you know, but what again from like again speaking to people, it just everybody seems to be on an agreement of, you know, whether it's the speaking out thing or just, you know, COVID kind of thing. You know, a lot of people lost something they loved for a year and a half kind of
Yeah.
thing. and they're just happy to have it back. And
Mm.
everybody that I've spoken to that was pre and after, everybody's in agreement of the locker rooms are just a hell of a lot more positive. Everybody's a lot more supportive. Obviously not 100%, again, not
Mm.
blanket statement, but from everybody's experiences that I know, it's a much better place to be. Everybody's kind of supporting each other and elevating people a lot more now than they used
Mm.
to.
Yeah.
Again, whether that's, because there's so many book promotions out there now, there's so many opportunities, there's so many bookings, people aren't being as protective about the sports and they can kind of big other people up and, elevate them as well.
Yeah. I was never, I had never been like a, it sounds like I'm patting myself on the back, but I've never been like a protect my spot politic kind of person. I'm much more in this for wrestling as the art that it is. I am primarily see myself as a performer rather than someone who's trying to be a big star or anything like that. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe I should be more cutthroat. Maybe, but like, certainly the old school mindset would be to say you need to be more like that, but that's just not who I am, and I'm happier just be doing wrestling, enjoying wrestling, trying to create the best art, which, and I do view it as an art that I can.
Yeah, I fully agree. So, when you come back then, I know I've watched a few, I watched the podcast you did for Real Wrestling. So
Hmm.
I'll shout out them as well, kind of thing. I know you sort of said, when you came back, it's like, boom, they basically knew what you could do. And you kind of got, when you came back, you was pretty much straight near, on top of the card, or in a very in important matches straight away, kind of thing. That must have been nice. That must have been very nice.
I didn't realize the significance at the time because I was new to these Pride shows being a thing. But the fact that my third match back was an Effie's brunch, I know it was a Rumble spot, but like in hindsight, that's kind of wild. I didn't realize quite how significant it was at the time. But that was very that's very significant in hindsight. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, I think it did help, obviously, that I had like already had relationships with people within wrestling. So like, someone goes, oh, they can, they can put on a match, we know we can use her, that kind of thing. Um, that was obviously a factor. I'm not gonna pretend otherwise, you know what I mean? But yeah, it does mean a lot in hindsight that I got opportunities like Effie's Big Grey Brunch and things like that relatively quickly. Yeah.
Well, get to work with like Dark Sheik and things
Yeah.
like that as well. That's like groundbreaking.
Now, there is a bit of a misconception about that match. I want to stress that it was not the first trans versus trans match in Britain. That honor goes to Pro Wrestling Eve, but Camille Hansen versus Max the Impaler in the tail end of 2022. Um, it was the first match between two binary trans women, which doesn't, and I just happened to offhandedly mention that on Twitter, because you got to promote your stuff, and I was like, oh, there's a selling point. And then suddenly this photographer, who I've met a few times now, he's a very nice man. He got very interested, and he wanted to take pictures. And because of his interest, it ended up as like, those stock photo, not stock
Yeah,
photos, but the photos that newspapers buy to
yeah.
tell stories. And so it ended up on like the Telegraph, was it the Telegraph at the time? One of those websites, and it ended up on CNN's website. And then suddenly it's like, oh, it was the first. There had been other trans matches before that. Like it was the first within a very specific category. However, the fact it was with Dark Sheik, who is one of the key figures in queer pro wrestling, was an honor, and it is important that's recognized, and very, very cool that it happened. And I have since gotten opportunities off the back of that, like we're not on it yet, but when we talk about the fact I went to America earlier this year, one of the places I worked was her promotion, so yeah.
That's well, we'll talk about. There is no structure to these chats. It's
Okay.
just as we talk. As things come up, we'll talk about it. We'll explore it.
Mm.
I'm not going to let that slide and then not keep talking about it. Hey, you went to America. That's awesome. So
Mm.
how did you find it? Obviously, get to work that promotion. That must have been cool as well, though. To go cross over the ocean and then be in their house, kind of thing.
I mean, you say cool, it was terrifying. I was convinced, because you hear these horror stories about American borders that I'd spend 9 hours flying there and then immediately have to spend 9 hours flying back because they think I've done some kind of crime or something, you know what I mean? Um, but as soon as I landed and I was in America and all that, I was like, oh, I'm calm now, the anxiety's gone, and then I could just enjoy the experience. So then, like, what I had one night to fight off the jet lag, and then the next night I was wrestling for Hood Slam, which is an incredible vibe. I don't know if you've seen the clips, but it's like they've got live announcing. The commentary is live, which happens in two situations: either kind of a really cringy family show, or in this case, a really cool over the top adult show with mad shit going on. I can swear, can't I? Can I swear?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Straight away.
With like mad shit going on and like vulgar language and stuff like that. Like I opened the show and we had probably the most normal wrestling match on the show. Like later on we had like a serial superhero getting his baby murdered by an evil psychiatrist on the same show. Like it's that kind of vibe. It's that kind of pro wrestling with your DDT type thing. And it was a hell of a lot of fun. Very glad I did it. I'm very, very pleased with my performance in that match and my later match at Kitsune in LA. I was also very, very pleased with as well. And the feedback I got was all very positive. I had a really good experience there. I got to train for a bit at Stone EU, which is the academy run by the Stoner Brothers. And they trained, I think, Mansoor and Shotzi. They're probably the biggest people they've trained, and that was a lot of fun. I got to meet a lot of other trans wrestlers there. I met in that first week in America more trans wrestlers than I think exist in this country. So that was kind of an experience. But yeah, I had a fantastic experience. Yeah.
That's awesome. How did that come about then? Was it through the Dark Sheik? Did they reach out to you and invite you over?
I don't know how much I can say.
Oh,
I can just say that someone wanted me to go and wrestle in the States, and they made it happen. That's all. That's all I'll go so far because I don't know if this person wants credit or not. So I'll just leave it at that.
No, that's perfectly fine. That's the thing that answers the question. Is like if somebody reached out to you though, and again, that's a massive pat on your back to be like, what I mean, somebody's reached out and be like, you're awesome. Please come over and show everybody over here, how awesome you are, kind of thing, and we'll pay you to do it.
It did mean a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I won't lie.
It's massive. It's got obviously wrestling. It's a confidence. You've got to have confidence in what you do. You've got to have confidence in the character and your abilities. And when moments like that happen, that's just got to fill your tank up to full. The confidence tank is like fully recharged.
Yeah, it was very special. I'll put it that way. Very special. Yeah.
Awesome. That is, I think again, because everybody takes it for granted. We always expect it to be the other way, kind of thing. We talked about, as fans, we talk about imports coming in, to UK shows and stuff like that. But I always love to hear it go the other way as well, because I just think it shows how good we are, kind of thing, as how good British wrestling is as a whole now. Is that I'm noticing talent going the other way.
Yeah, I think British wrestling creates some incredible talent. I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? Like some of the wrestlers we produce is just incredible. Yeah, and it is good to see more people getting opportunities abroad, like in America, in Japan, on mainland Europe, that kind of thing. Just is of Australia. It's incredible.
But it must be great for you guys as well, because as much as depending on obviously how far you want to push it, the goal's there. If you kind of want to push the goal back a little bit and be like, right, you know what, yeah, if like America was on your list, like, you know, you can tick that off now.
Mm.
That's done. That goal's been achieved. You know, maybe the next box will be doing it on a regular basis, kind of thing. Like, okay, cool, we'll tick that off at some point. Or like say Australia. It just gives you guys, you know, it gives you all more options and things to strive for, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it does. And I mean, I'm not the kind of person that's going, right, here is my end goal. I'm going to work towards that obsessively. I mean, coming back, um, I'm a little bit pessimistic. I don't think someone like the WWE is going to hire a trans wrestler for like 10, 20 years. So in my head, it's like, I'm not even thinking about that. Do you know, I just want to enjoy pro wrestling for its own sake. And you know, if opportunities come up, they come up and I'll take them. But I'm not going like my next goal is this. My next, well, I kind of am. There's places I want to go, but I'm trying not to like obsess over it. Do you know what I mean? I just want to take wrestling on its own terms and just enjoy being a pro wrestler and enjoy
Yeah.
performing and enjoy entertaining people. Yeah.
Keeping it grounded, but kind of having if I get to do it, that'd be amazing kind of thing. Not a when, but if I get to do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
that would be awesome kind of thing. But staying grounded and yeah, keep it sort of real. I hate saying it, 'cause it kind of sounds, but yeah, you kind of making sure everything's achievable. And then like I said, yeah, if you get to tick them off, awesome. If you don't, you know,
Mm.
there's something else that can be done instead.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
I can say I've wrestled in America now. I honestly never thought I'd be able to say that. So there you go. You know.
that is so cool. That is honestly so cool. So obviously, you know, but back to the UK, you know, it's just, you know, we talked FutureShock, you know, there's, you know, you wrestle, you know, Spectrum, Off the Page. Also, I mentioned True Grits. Again, we kind of talked about it, where you've only really been back for sort of just over a year now, like, you know, on
Yeah,
show,
yeah.
about a year and a bit, year and
It
three
doesn't
months,
it
I think it was.
it feels it doesn't. It's hard to believe it's been that short. You know, I've done quite a lot of stuff, which yeah, yeah. It. I don't really know what else to say about that. It's
Oh,
just kind
it's
of
mind
mad.
blowing
Yeah.
because you've come back and like you know, as I said, you've been on and you've been in or around or involved in like really important matches. You know, you've kind
Mm.
of been, you know, a top tier player. Is the best way I can kind of put it. Where you know you can
Mm.
go into any promotion, you can challenge anyone,
Oh,
and
bless.
it's credible.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's just
I'm not.
when
I've
I
never
see
been
you,
good at complimenting myself or stuff like that. So you know, if I'm in character, I can be like, "I'm a badass. I'm gonna beat you up." But like, just as this, yeah, you're just making me all bashful.
oh, I'm sorry, you're on the wrong show. I should have warned you. You know, this is just my whole purpose of this is just to, you know, big you up and just let people know just how awesome whatever, you know, what it is that you do and everybody else does. You know,
Oh,
that's
I
what I'm talking
appreciate
to you.
it.
My way of
Appreciate
saying
that.
thank you.
Oh.
So, but I'd say that, you know, I'm looking through your match history and stuff like that. And, you know, I saw matches where it was like you and Lizzie Evo against Lana Austin and Harley Hudson.
Hmm.
Whenever you're on a show, like say you're up in matches with the best in the country kind of thing, you are included in that best of the best. So
Oh. Well,
that must be nice to be able to come back and just be automatically, you know, on in demand.
yeah, I mean, yeah. um, I don't know what else to add to that. You know, I have had the opportunity to compete and wrestle with some genuinely incredible wrestlers. You know what I mean? Like it does mean a lot that people are putting me in those situations and stuff. Again, I'm not very good at complimenting myself, so I'll just say I am proud that I've gotten those opportunities, and I'll just I'll leave it there. You know, I'll say I'm proud that I've gotten those opportunities to have matches with really really good wrestlers, and it makes me very happy that I'm able to say that.
Where did you do the obviously like I said, anybody who's seen you in action knows it's just you are once you get in that ring, legitimately scary. You know, you will suplex, you will pound, you will just
Mm.
beat down anyone kind of thing.
Mm.
Very wrestling stroke sort of MMA, just just a fierce competitor kind of thing. Spartan. How did you come about with that persona once you get in the ring?
Oh, let's think. So it kind of stems mainly from the style, which is inspired by people like Finley, people like Regal. Um, there's some of my like Finley is one of my favorite wrestlers to watch. Fit Finley. Like a lot of what I do, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of what I do is nicked directly from him, the way I stomp on fingers, that kind of thing. Regal's a big inspiration, Moxley, I guess, although I'd already started kind of developing myself when I got to know the Moxley's work, but it's that kind of vibe, that kind of fighty, scrappy, um, beats the shit out of you kind of wrestler. That's the kind of wrestling I like to watch. I mean, that's a lie. I like to watch all kinds of wrestling. I love this incredibly stupid art form that we do. But that is my favorite kind of wrestling to watch because I can just sit back and watch it on my TV and kind of just quietly enjoy watching like Finley stamp on someone's fingers and like slowly pick someone apart. That's what I enjoy, is that kind of almost quiet brutality. Not that I'm quiet, I come out and I scream and all that stuff. Like that side of the persona is a bit more, I don't know. I've said this before, but like I've been the last few years after I came out, I've been through a lot of shit. I don't wanna like overstate it, but I have. And a lot of that side of the persona comes from a lot of like, if you meet me as we've been talking, I'm quite I don't know, social, not quiet, but more, I don't know if bubbly's the word, but I like to be friendly with people, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But there is a lot of like anger and a lot of hurt from some of the stuff that I've been through that I don't really express in my day-to-day life. Um, but I get to express it in the ring. I get to bring all those emotions out when I'm in character, and that is that, you know. Like I had this issue like in at True Grit the other day. I turned up in like a nice dress because it was a warm day and stuff like that. And I remember like putting my dress back on at the end and going and realizing that I'd have to walk through the fans and thinking to myself like this is so not, this dress does not match my character at all. The way I dress, the way I present myself day to day does not match
Yeah.
HCC, but at the same time, HCC kind of is part of who I am. Like all that character comes from real emotion and real experiences. You know, when I have had to deal with dickheads on the street, that's the kind of attitude I've had to display to you know deal with them. You know what I mean? So yeah, I might be rambling again,
Oh,
but yeah, the character is, yeah, the style, and it happens to suit. I'll bring it back. That kind of character happens to suit that Finley Regal inspired style that I am lifting from. Um, that kind of vicious batterer of people.
yeah. Amazing. Absolutely love. Anytime Finley gets a shout out or Regal, I'll sit and I'll pop. I'll have a stupid smile on my face because
Mm.
uh, anybody who knows me knows Regal is so high up on my list, and Finley is one of the guys that's very underappreciated in my opinion. He's
Mm.
never really on anybody's list or anybody's radar, but he so clearly should be kind of
He's
thing.
on mine. He genuinely one of my favorite wrestlers. My favorite wrestler always changes, but he is always consistently one of them.
So that's why I always do a top five, so you can kind of
Oh
alternate.
no.
Right, like I've got a sort of a set three, but like the four and five always kind of changing
Yeah.
around for other things, so it gives you a little bit of freedom to mix it up a bit. But
Yeah.
have you ever heard the story of Finley where he just randomly broke somebody's finger at like a wrestling show kind of thing? So I think they sort of made a gnarly comment or
Mm.
something, and he literally just shook his hand and he just managed whilst taking his hand, grab his finger and he just broke it and then just walked off. I was like, you know, it was
Yeah.
just the vision and the brutality of just, it was just like so, yeah, precise. It was the precision
Mm.
of, I was just like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. But
So, oh, sorry, go on.
no, no, I was just agreeing.
But I think that's the kind of thing like so saying that now you've said it, I'm kind of watching you know, you in the ring, like say the scream, the brutality. It's just, yeah, you're very focused, you're very sort of precise in what you do, kind of thing. I presume that obviously you said you lifted that from Finley. You kind of got that precision when you're in the ring. And I take it that that's deliberate. That's part of the show.
Yeah, that's part of just the way I wrestle and my style and my character, you know. I a lot of people think it's kind of old hat, but I enjoy the bad guy slowly breaking the good guy down until like the good guy like finally gets everyone behind. I don't want to go too far behind the curtain or anything, but like we all know that story trope in a match, and I really enjoy that, you know. I enjoy that style of wrestling, and I enjoy it. I think it's a feature of storytelling in the ring. That's important, and I like to watch one wrestler like dissect another wrestler. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just kind of doing what I enjoy seeing. Um, yeah,
Has that always been the case? Then when you first got started, we were going back to like day one. Then obviously
yeah.
these inspirations from day one. When you started, was that always the kind of
No, no, no. Again, I started very young. And my older character was much more of a gimmick. I don't know if you've seen any of my older stuff or are aware of it, but this was like my old character was like a crazy person who had a teddy bear and wore face paint and sang nursery rhymes and bit people. That's the kind of character that I was. Now, some instances were inspired by your Finley Regal stuff, where I'd go, that would work for this character. But my it's weird. I like the fact that my mindset now is very much wrestling first. A lot of the time back then it was character first. And in hindsight, I think a lot of that was a mistake. Um, but that's what I was. I was very much a character wrestler. It's a big gimmick, you know. Yeah, screamed, bit people, nursery rhymes, that kind of thing. It was very silly, creepy kind of character. Yeah.
uh, yeah, I do. It's ringing bells, because I've been watching British wrestling from like, yeah, way back in the day, last 10,
Mm.
10 plus years kind of thing. I still remember HXC in Manchester, things like that.
Yeah, I
So
remember HXC.
yeah, that's old school kind of thing where, but again, though, I think, not to undersell the HCC is, yeah, it's not an over the top character, but it's still very much a character so again, I think that's something that's it's come full circle. It's coming back into British wrestling now. It's not
Mm.
just about just normal people, normal names, doing
Yeah,
what they do kind of thing. I think a lot of people are focusing on characters again, making themselves stand out. I presume because, as we said, there's a lot of people out there now doing, the wrestling thing and trying
yeah,
to get bookings. If you've got a character, I suppose that makes you stand out a bit more and lets promotions know what you can offer them.
yeah,
Whereas if somebody books HCC, they know what they're getting. If
yeah,
you want somebody that's just going to turn up, like say, just be precise, be fierce, be scary, and just beat
yeah.
somebody up. Bosh, jobs are good.
Yeah, I mean, I do. It is intentional. I try and like separate myself off. Like the character specifically, the character is very much not what any other queer character I'm aware of is like. Not to say other queer wrestler, but queer character. Like when you're trans, you can't really separate yourself off from being trans. This, in a way you can if you're say gay. I don't that sounds wrong. I mean, as a character,
Yeah,
because if you're trans, unless you pass really well, like um, it's going to be part of like your appeal. A lot of your fans are going to be trans fans and queer fans. A lot of I suppose it's the nature of being like a minority. I suppose in like a performing things like that, so that people who you represent are going to look up to you. So you can't really separate yourself off from that. But I do try and separate myself from other queer characters, like my character's not very pride focused and things like that. I don't wear rainbow colors. I don't, you know, when those topics come up, the character is very dismissive of it. Like America, when I wrestled for Kitsune, I wrestled a woman from Oklahoma, and obviously with Oklahoma, there was that recent controversy regarding like Nyla Rose wrestling over there. Um, and like part of the motivation for her character was that like she can't wrestle people like me over there, so she's gonna come to LA and wrestle me there. But then I cut a promo at the end where I was like, and where I was like, I don't care about your politics. I don't care about this country. I care about the fact you gave me a fight, and I respect that. And that was the direction that my character went in, because my character wouldn't be like, oh, we're doing this for the people of Oklahoma, because that's just not who HCC is. You know, I might care deeply about a lot of these topics, but she doesn't. You know, she cares about having a fight and hurting people. You know.
That's awesome. And that's, like I said, that suits the character perfectly. You know, I kind of, obviously, you know, I'd say just as an example, you know, noticed it True Grit kind of thing. Like I said, there was no celebration there from HCC. There was no basking in the glory of the moment of the show, what it like good for. It was literally right. I'm coming out the curtain. I'm walking down the ramp. I'm just going to pound heads, and then you know that's it. I'm out. I'm here for a fight. I'm here for a scrap.
There's a champion. I'm eligible for this championship, so I'm going to beat people up to get that championship. You know.
That's it. Don't matter what championship it's for. You know, it doesn't matter what it represents. It's a belt. I want it. I get to beat people up for it. There you go.
Exactly, and that's kind of the mindset I try and embody with the character. You know, other. I mean, it'd be a lie to say I don't care about it, even in character. Like, you know, if I'm going to be like at down south for Purpose Wrestling. I was performing on a Pride show there recently. I wrestled Kelly Six, so you know, I won the match and I did a speech after it, where I was quite open, but like at the same time, that was a bit more blurry, the lines between character and stuff, because I was the good guy there, so like I could be a bit more, but like still ultimately. Her main focus was beating up the person in front of her, you know. Yeah.
It's giving somebody good beating and that's walking away kind of thing. Getting your
Yeah.
arm raised and walking away happy. So,
Yeah.
well, I'm happy, just satisfied, I suppose. So, just to rewind though, you sort of said, you know, obviously, you know, being trying majority of the fans, you know, obviously, you appeal to that. You know, it's good for the representation, but I can sort of speak from, you know, a lot of wrestling fans that I know, massive fans, regardless. You know, you have a massive fan base. It's
Oh.
not within like a certain bracket. It's varied. The brackets are varied and wide. So, yeah, there you
Oh,
go. So
I
it's
have
another
kind of
compliment.
noticed that. I have kind of noticed that actually. Sometimes I'll be like, I'll be performing as the bad guy on a show, but because my character is very like, I am a fighter, right? Like I'm not a chicken shit heel. I don't go around like, you know, doing all the cheaty stuff necessarily. I will sometimes, but it's less of a focus than it would be if I was like a chicken shit heel. I'm more of a badass heel. Um, I have noticed that sometimes, like if the crowd is split, the people who are supporting me are usually like the straightest sounding men you've ever met in your life, and then like, oh, okay, you know, like the people who are buying my t-shirts are either the queer fans or the straightest looking men you've ever seen in your life. You know, it's kind of a strange dichotomy.
They just appreciate badassery. You know what I mean? A badass is a badass. You know, and it's just regardless. You know, if you they respect the fight, we'll
Yeah.
say. So I mean, obviously we're in sort of July now. Is there anything you can kind of tell us you've got coming up? Any sort of future shows that I've missed? When I've been trying to scroll, trying to pick stuff up.
Yeah, a lot, much of what I've got coming up hasn't been announced yet, but I will say, not going to say what I'm doing, but FutureShock's anniversary, their 20th anniversary is coming up in August, August 10th and 11th, I think it is. Those are going to be two incredible shows. There's some big, huge matches coming up on it. Of course, I'm going to plug it. I love FutureShock, and yes, you know, unless something changes drastically, I will be performing. Won't say which show because I think everyone should buy tickets for both. But that is coming up and it's going to be amazing. There's also This Is Wrestling, which is interesting for me because it's more of a fun family show, which I never thought I'd be able to be performing on fun family shows. But This Is Wrestling in Ormskirk, they've embraced me. They seem to really like me there. So, and this is like an audience of like kids and families, so it means a lot that I get to perform on those shows. So if you're in for some, if you're up for some family friendly wrestling, This Is Wrestling. Off the page have been using me quite regularly. So watch out for their shows. They're likely to feature me as well. True Grit, obviously, keep your eye on True Grit if you're interested in watching me, that kind of thing. Yeah, just keep your eye on everything though that's coming up. I will always, when as soon as it's announced, I'll slap it on my Instagram. I'll put it on my Twitter, even though I hate Twitter because you got to use Twitter. I'm trying to as of like yesterday, trying to use Threads more because it's not as horrible as Twitter, but it's there. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. I will announce things when they get announced.
Just do what I do. I get on, I post my shit, I get off again. That's literally
Yeah,
how I deal with sort of Twitter. Or if
yeah.
somebody comments, I reply back, kind of thing. I don't sit and scroll. I refuse to do that. I get on, like I say, I'll do guest announcements or hype it up and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and then I get gone. But I see the family show thing as well. That's awesome because like you said, it's just nice. It's like it's gives you that reassurance. It's like you can be booked on any show, and you've got
Mm-hmm.
that versatility. The appeal's there for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It does mean a lot that I get to workplaces like This Is Wrestling because I do worry about how certain crowds will take to me because I think most people can probably tell I'm trans, so I do worry. But so far, I've not had like a negative reaction for it. I've not had any abuse from the crowd, so hopefully that'll continue.
There we go. So, and I suppose family shows and stuff like that as well. It's always good for merch. You just need
Yeah.
to get some like HCC foam fists so people can put the bad guys along with you.
Oh, maybe.
I try and get everybody to get foam stuff for family shows. I had Keg Stacker on, and I wanted to see like big foam kegs for them to be carrying around. FutureShock 20th anniversary. I'm not mistaken. That's the one with Sam Bailey versus Brian Strong
That
in
is
the hair
indeed
versus
on the
hair match.
card. Yeah, that's gonna be great. What's been announced? You've got Chris Egan challenging for the championship, and Chris has been with Future Shock since the beginning, you know. And if he loses, then that's it for him. Um, there's a huge TLC triple threat match as well with the tag teams. It's going to be incredible event. And yes, I'm biased. I don't care. Future Shock's awesome. Please come and see it.
I'm not going to argue. Like
Leah Raven and Lana Austin, Three Stages of Hell.
that was a match I meant to ask about as well. Obviously, when I'm looking through the previous ones,
Hmm.
obviously Leah Raven is somebody that obviously you've had tangles with, you've had matches.
Yes, I've enjoyed
Um,
those matches very, very much. Yeah.
she's somebody I think obviously is I think starting to get known. Obviously, I'm in Yorkshire. I'm sort of
Mm.
over this sort of side of things. I'd love to see her over this way more often. So I'm hoping more promotions kind of,
Well,
start.
I hope so. I hope so. Excuse me. I hope so too. She's very good. I'm very, I very much enjoyed fighting her. So I would, yeah, do it in Yorkshire. Why not?
Exactly. More venues, more places to do it.
Yeah.
So that's it. It suits you down to the ground. Yeah, bring her over, pay her, beat her up, or try beat her up. And be the best person
Mm.
win. But yeah, and obviously just to shout out the Strong Bailey hair versus hair match. It is for
It
charity.
is. Yes,
Um,
it is.
Brian sent me the link last week, so I'll put that again in this episode description. So if you want to look into it, find out how you can raise money for cancer research. Those two guys are going to absolutely tear it up.
Mm.
Look in the description, please, and yeah, you'll find the link to go donate for it. So obviously a great charity, and it'll nice to see those guys.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've talked about it as well though, because for me, neither guy's got enough. Normally, when you see a hair versus hair match, there's an obvious loser. There's the guy that's losing his hair. The guy that's got a receding hairline. Like, right, okay, he's bitten the bullet. He's going to shave it off. But I'm looking at Sam and Brian, and I'm like, both of you still got a good head of hair. I think it's
Yeah.
going to be a big sacrifice.
Well, we'll find out who's willing to lose that hair then and there. But
Well, it's
well,
not about who's willing to do it. It's about
yeah,
who gets the better of the next one.
yeah, oh yeah. Wrestling's real. Um, but yeah, it is raising money for charity, and it's going to be two amazing shows. I've not mentioned the Adrenaline Championship Triple Threat either. That's going to be a banger. Yeah. Plug. Please come and see it. But please come and see all the promotions all the ones I work for. No, support your local independent wrestling. It's the scene is getting healthier. It is in a strong recovery state, and I am very, very pleased to be a part of it.
You mentioned, coming to see shows that you're on. We've talked True Grit. Again, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I've got no way of knowing this is going to happen. But as a fan, I like to fancy book matches. I like to see.
Okay.
I like to plan out storylines and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just think you and Rio would have an absolute banger.
I would very much like to have that match at some point. Yes, very much so.
Yes. Again, these because we talked about it earlier, as the developing storylines, building up moments. I'm presuming, obviously, you're very much a moment over a sort of a match kind of person. If I'm saying that right, I always sort of say moments are more important than 5-star matches, if that makes sense.
Both are good. They can be the same thing sometimes. You know what I mean? Like they can be the same thing sometimes. I just love pro wrestling for what it is. And I think in many ways like this, the view of 5-star matches or like they're not mutually exclusive, the main thing about match for me is that it tells a story. And sometimes a great storytelling match will have that traditional 5-star kind of thing. Sometimes it won't. The important thing is it tells a story and that the people who are watching it are entertained by that story. And that to me is the key thing about wrestling, storylines, Matt. Go on.
Sorry, I worded it badly. That's my bad. 5-star matches, I think 5-star exhibition matches. They're an amazing match. It's a 5-star match, but it's a one-off match. Like a dream match.
Yeah.
As opposed to like the conclusion of an amazing storyline kind of thing. I think, the 5-star matches that have a moment in there, very, very cool. But as a fan, I appreciate both. I'm not mismatching either of them.
Yeah.
But as a fan, when somebody sort of asks you, like, "Oh, what's your favorite moment in wrestling?" Given my age, I'm like, I don't. It's like the Rock and Mankind. This is your life segment, or that kind of thing. But then on the flip side, I suppose I'd say TLC at WrestleMania 2000s.
Yeah. So, it's just a case of like you enjoy what you enjoy, and I think we're going off tangent of where we started with this, but I just love wrestling for what it is. I love your silly stuff. I love your serious stuff. I can watch like a Stardom or a New Japan one day, and then I can watch like a really story heavy WWE show the next. I just love this for what it is. And I love every aspect of wrestling. Be it a technical classic, a death match, a heavy hitting hoss fight, or be it like a storyline segment and just two characters interacting in like an entertaining manner. It's all great. It's hard to, I don't know. I feel sometimes like I go on about how much I love wrestling too much, but I just love wrestling,
Trust me, that is never going to be an issue. If and when whenever we talk, you can never go on about that stuff too much. It's just the only way it'd be too much is it gets me too hyped up. Then and I start rambling like I just did a minute ago. I couldn't quite explain myself properly, but like I said, it's just the awesomeness of it as a whole, as a package. And like I said, being massive marks for Regal and Finley, you've got to love that sort of
Yeah.
film and pinnacle wrestling, chain wrestling, and just appreciate the art form. I think you described it earlier as being a work of art.
Mm.
I think that's the perfect description of it, which I can't really top. It's an art form.
Yeah.
So, but I'll leave it. I'll say I'm going to put the seeds out there. I like to sort of every time I speak to somebody, I'm like I'd love to see this match. Kind of just hoping that if I put it out into the universe, it will happen at some point. So I'll start planting the seeds. I want to see HCC versus Rio at True Grit. That to me would be a dream match for the promotion.
Oh, I would absolutely love for that to happen. Yes.
So it's out there now in the universe. We've got to will it together, and we'll make sure it comes to light at some point. So, but we've talked socials before. Obviously, you know how to use them. Let people know where to find your shows. Where can they find you on the socials?
Okay, so primarily Instagram and Twitter. I am trying to use Threads more, so find me there. But if you're using Instagram, you can get on Threads easy enough. Those are the primary ones. I had a TikTok at one point, but I find it very difficult to use. But I'll try and use it more, I guess. I do have a TikTok account, but that's a bit more less. I'm too millennial for TikTok. I don't know. I'm not Zoomer enough. But definitely Instagram, definitely Twitter.
Obviously, when we upload this, we will tag you in stuff anyway. So if you're not following Helen, please do on Insta and Twitter. Keep your eyes out for shows, that are coming up. Look out for the posters. Look out for the match announcements. If Helen's at a show near you, please buy a ticket. Go and support it.
And a t-shirt.
And a t-shirt, yes. Get that merch. Go to the merch table, buy some merch. Just be nice, buy a ticket. Go enjoy the show, have a smile, watch some awesome wrestling, leave happy, and look forward to the next show. And support British wrestling. That's all we can say, really, because that's what's key. So, obviously, you'll find us. You know where to find us if you're watching this. So I'll do the generic stuff and say thank you for watching. Hit like, subscribe, share, comment, do all the boring stuff I always tell you to do. And we will see you again very soon. Helen, please don't go anywhere. I'm just saying bye to these people. And but yeah, keep your eyes peeled. We've got Skylar coming up at the end of the week. I should have spoken to her. I should have spoken to them on Monday, but we had technical issues. I think Sash Money Cash is turning up at some point to make some sort of announcements. I've got to upload that. So yeah, we've got some stuff coming up for you. But HCC, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it very much.
Not a problem. Right. Thank you all for watching, and we'll speak to you again very, very soon.